When it comes to cinema cameras, one brand and one camera stand out above all the rest. There's many reasons why this camera is held in such high regard, and if you were to list them, you wouldn't go much wrong by putting colour science somewhere near the top. There's just something special about the images out of this camera. It's probably why so many of the best cinematographers over the last decade have chosen to shoot their movies with it. But what if you could take the colour science out of the Arri Alexa and put it in to your Blackmagic camera? Turning your Pocket Cinema Camera 4K or even 6K into a baby Alexa. I woke up the other morning to find an email from Joel Famularo in my inbox giving me access to his updated Phantom LUTs. If you don't know about Phantom LUTs, they are one of the most popular and highly regarded lookup tables on the market, designed to mimic the colour science and characteristics of the Arri Alexa. Developed by Joel Famularo, an Australian cinematographer, he's put many hours into comparing and contrasting the colours from the Arri cameras against the Blackmagic cameras, how the highlights roll off, how colours change in different lighting. He's tested and tested again, all in an effort to come up with the most accurate interpretation of Arri colour science. In other words, he's put a lot of effort into it. I'd bought the LUTs and then completely forgot about them. Not because the LUTs aren't good in any way, but because that's the type of thing I do. Buy things and then forget to use them in the future. If I was going to do a proper review, then I would need to compare these LUTs to an Arri Alexa. Unfortunately, my Arri Alexa is on the blink, which I'm quite annoyed about actually because the eBay listing said that it was in perfect working order when I bought it. So I can't compare them side by side, which means that this review is going to be less scientific and more of a personal opinion about whether I think they're good. And in many ways, I've kind of always felt that my opinion was better than scientific facts. So this has probably worked out for the best. This LUT pack comes with 5 LUTs included. You get Blue Ice, which gives everything a cooler, more somber feel. Jamaica, which provides a kind of lush green pop. Neutral, this is the one that the other LUTs are built around and is designed to give you the Arri look. Tungsten, which as the name might suggest is designed for shooting in tungsten light. And finally Utopia, which is probably the most filmic of all the LUTs. You get these for both the 6K and the 4K, and there are some legacy versions included too. So let's get to the results. Do they look like the Arri Alexa? Well, I'm going to say yes, with one caveat that I'll get to in a minute. The LUTs are actually pretty subtle. Out of all of them, it's a toss-up between Utopia and Neutral for which one is my favourite. Probably leaning slightly towards Utopia, but this changes from shot to shot. I like the others too, but maybe have less situations where they seem to be needed. Where I feel you could use Neutral and Utopia in pretty much any situation. Jamaica is pretty good when there's a lot of vegetation in the frame, and I can imagine Ice Blue looking great in stark wintry conditions. Using it for a Scandinavian thriller would probably work well. But as we were in the middle of one of the hottest summers we've had here in the UK, it's not the best conditions for testing it in. I also wanted to give them a test in different lighting conditions to see how they react. Let me know down in the comments what you think about them. So what about that caveat? Joel mentioned in his email that after user feedback, he had reduced the amount of magenta in his LUTs to match with the Arri Alexa even closer. For my money, it still probably pulls too much towards magenta in certain situations, but I'm not a colorist or an expert in any way, so take that with a grain of salt. I just feel the Alexa footage that I've seen is a little greener. One of the things I was looking forward to testing the most was the difference between Blackmagic Gen 5 film to extended video LUT and the Alexa Phantom Neutral LUT. And this was probably the biggest surprise I had doing this whole test. They are incredibly close. On the left we have the Phantom LUT and the Gen 5 on the right. I mean, look how close they are. You can see the Gen 5 is a little more magenta and a hair's breadth darker. If I add a little green with the tint tool, make it just a tad cooler, and drop the exposure to match the waveforms up, they become almost indistinguishable. There's still a tiny difference if you really spend the time looking for it. The greens are a fraction more saturated, and there seems to be a slightly warmer highlight to the Phantom LUTs, but considering we made only the smallest of adjustments with global tools, it's staggering how close they are. I mean, check this clip out. It's split in two. Can you tell where the join is? Can you tell which is the Blackmagic LUT and which is the Phantom? I guess this goes to show just how much effort Blackmagic have put into their Gen 5 colour science. It really comes down to personal preference when deciding which is the nicer image. Unlike a lot of LUTs you can buy, the Phantom LUTs are designed to be used at full strength, straight out of the box, so to speak. My workflow was just 3 nodes. The first for slight exposure changes, the second to correct colour temp if needed, and then the third to drop the LUT into. I think all of them are pleasing just as they are, but it got me thinking, how many times do we see ungraded Alexa footage? If you look at any one of the hundreds of projects shot with these cameras, how many look the same? Not many. So is there really an Alexa look? I'll have to leave you to answer that. Maybe the best way of looking at these LUTs is as a starting point. You can use them as a solid foundation in getting a more polished look. Here's a few clips of the footage I shot with the Phantom LUTs as a base and my grade over the top of it. Another good question is, are these LUTs value for money? And at first glance, they can seem to be a bit on the expensive side, and that's because they are coming in at about $50. Are these LUTs value for money? Well, only you can answer that, really. If you need the Arri look or you're after the Arri look, then they could be incredibly valuable to you. If you don't want the Arri look, then maybe they're not as valuable to you as they might be to me or somebody else. Only you can answer that question. But you have to remember that somebody has put in an awful amount of work to try and get these to work as closely as possible to Arri colour science, and there is a value just in that. I think it's great that somebody is willing to do that and that they are, well, they're willing to sell them to us at such a reasonable price. $50 is not that much money, and I think it's also fantastic that Joel has made it so that these LUTs, you get updates to them, and that's free of charge going forward into the future. So many people try and release a second LUT pack with updated LUTs, and then they want to charge you all over again for them. So thanks, Joel, for doing that. I appreciate it, and I think everybody else will too. I knew that these LUTs were going to be good when I saw that Joel spelt colour with a U. That means that he pays particular attention to detail and likes to get things right. If you want to pick up these LUTs, the link is in the description to Joel's website. They're nothing to do with me, they're not affiliate links or anything like that. I have no connection to Joel and these LUTs whatsoever, other than being a customer who likes them. So if your camera blows up when you install them, that's Joel's fault. It's got nothing to do with me. Don't blame me, please. I do recommend them, however, if you're looking to get the Arri colour science in your Blackmagic camera. As far as I can tell, there is no other LUT on the market that gets quite as close as the ones that Joel has created. But obviously there's only so much he can do. There is a difference in the sensors, and there are going to be differences even once you apply this LUT. Having said that, I think they work incredibly well. They're pleasing on the eye, they look great, and even if you're not after the Arri look as such, they're still a nice pleasant LUT to apply to your work. I'd be more than happy to use these LUTs going forward on projects where people wanted the Arri look or where there would needed to be a quick turnaround. I think they're fantastic, they look professional, they look good. The colours are nice and pleasing. However, I'll still use other LUTs as well, ones that I've bought and ones that I've created myself, because I like colour grading, I think it's interesting, I want to get better at it, and I like some of the LUTs that I've created myself. I guess this is just another tool in the toolbox that you can use to get the LUTs and the looks that you want out of these cameras. Anyway, I think you should probably watch another video now. How about either one of these two? Cheers.